Welcome to Global Citizen Life podcast. Today on the show, we have Elizabeth DeSevo. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, you are in the beautiful city of Madrid, Spain. And first question is, why did you choose Spain? And then more specifically, why was Madrid your choice within all the beautiful options of Spain?
There are a lot of beautiful options in Spain, that is for sure. So I always say that I didn't choose Spain, Spain chose me. I came here when I was in college. I just for a study abroad. And no real reason. I just kind of picked it out of the blue. I had a roommate who could speak Spanish, and I was like, that's really cool. I would like to be able to do that. So I did a study abroad. And when I came here, when I got off the plane in Madrid, and the reason for Madrid, at least at that time, was because that's the exchange program that the university had. But I remember, and I was 20, about to turn 21, getting off the plane and just the smell. And it's something I could never explain. And I was like, I've been here before. I'm home. It gave me
Wow.
chills. I was like, what is this place? So it was very, very cool, very amazing. And I loved it right from the start. So fast forward 20 or something years. And I ended up moving back here permanently. But when I was here, yes, I did. I mean, when I was here in college, and also when I first would come back and forth before I moved officially, I traveled a lot to see different cities in Spain. Which there's plenty. Mostly, if I speak from like the American and Canadian perspective, most people know that either Madrid or Barcelona. And to me, Barcelona, although it's on the water, which is fantastic, being from New Jersey, I definitely miss the ocean. But to me, Barcelona felt like any city in Europe. And Madrid is
True.
very Spanish. And so I liked that, the more Spanish and cultural feeling. I mean, I love Barcelona, but it felt different. It felt different. So, and in the south of Spain, being that I'm from New Jersey, in the New York, New Jersey area, in the south of Spain, as much as I love it and it's beautiful, it's a little bit slower. And I think my Americanism would really come out, at least for working. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So yeah, better to keep me in the middle.
Well, I mean, it's true. Everything you said is true, and obviously me spending time living in Barcelona for years, I find, and some people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but this is just the way I feel, and I've traveled to over 50 countries, so I've been to plenty of places. I find Barcelona isn't Spanish.
Yeah,
It's the way I see
it's
it. It's
Catalan.
an international city. It has
Exactly.
beautiful, like old architecture, and I love it. But as you said, it could be like any other
It could be
major
any city.
city because it's so international. And so that's what I mean by it's not Spanish, where when you go to Granada, Sevilla, Madrid, and those other places, there aren't as many of the tourists, and there's still a lot of that Spanish lifestyle that truly happens there that Barcelona doesn't have. But because I came from a non-coastal city in Canada, everywhere I go now to live is close to the water because I love the water. But I also Valencia, if I would have went to Valencia first before Barcelona, I don't know if I would have picked Barcelona because Valencia
Yeah,
is definitely
Valencia
more
is it's
Spanish.
beautiful. It's beautiful.
Mhm.
It's more Spanish. It's smaller, right? So you
Yes.
wouldn't have a big city feel as you do in Barcelona, although these cities, compared to New York, for example, are small. But
Mm.
so but you would have the water, and you would have the Spanish feel. But really you can't go wrong anywhere in the country. I mean, the
It's
north of
true.
Spain is beautiful as well. It
Yes.
is known for its rain and all that, but it does have fantastic food, as we do everywhere else in the country. And for such a small country, I mean, being from the US, I look at Spain as obviously a small country. And it's interesting how different it can be in the north from the south, even to Barcelona to Madrid. So for even in a small area, geographic area, there are different languages and somewhat different customs. So it's, you're never bored, that's for sure. It's very interesting.
It's true. I was doing a presentation a while ago on Spain, and I got so many pictures of different regions and areas. And I remember going through some of it and show a beautiful picture, be like, this isn't Canada. And it was part of the mountains because it's very close to the Pyrenees. I'm like, it's Spain. And then from different areas that could look like you were in different countries. What was I doing one time with a friend? We went, what's it called? Cliff jumping. You jump off the cliffs into the water, and it was one of those days. It was north of Barcelona, but the water was that perfect teal blue green kind of
Yeah, probably
color,
the
and the trees, and there was this
Costa Brava.
orange kayak sitting there, and I got a picture of it, and I said to my friend, I said, I feel like I'm in Thailand. Like it was just so perfect and beautiful. And so I say to people in a lot of ways that Spain does have something for everyone, because if maybe, Barcelona might not be your place, but there's so many other places within the cities, and small towns for people who don't want city life. There's the towns and villages and places that are beautiful. And I find, especially right now, compared to North America, I'm at this moment in time, I'm in the United States, just for about another week or two. But the cost of living compared to the US is substantially cheaper.
Yes, I mean it is getting a little bit more expensive, but in the Iberia Peninsula, Spain, Portugal, are definitely much cheaper. I mean, when I come home, I live in New Jersey as well, and when I come home to New Jersey and I go to the grocery store, I'm like, what? Yogurt costs how much just for a cup of yogurt? So you definitely get used to, the prices and the different lifestyles. So that is for sure. And for travelers, it's fantastic because if you come here and you see that you can have amazing meals and lunches and dinners and excursions and things like that, that wouldn't cost you what you might expect if you were going to London or Paris.
Right. One of my biggest complaints that I have when I'm in either Canada or the US and I'm visiting is when we go out to eat or something. Like, for example, the other day I went out and I had one glass of wine, and it cost me 30 US dollars, and I couldn't believe it. It was one glass of wine, and I thought, if I was in Barcelona, I could have an
You'd be drunk by
amazing
now.
menu. Well, I'd be drunk by now if I was just drinking wine, that's for sure. Or a menu of the day where I get the appetizer,
Yeah.
entree, and dessert or coffee. I usually get coffee, and a glass of wine with it. Of course, it is a bit of a smaller glass of wine. It's not a 9 ounce glass of wine, but still, and it's what, maybe 15, maybe a little bit. If it was a really nice place, under 20 euro for
Yeah, I
sure.
mean, the other thing is that you really don't. I mean, I have found that all over Spain, but especially in Madrid, that you don't get a bad meal really anywhere, right? So the food is good. You can go to the top-notch restaurants and spend a little bit more, but even in those that are not the top-notch, the food, is much better. Spanish friend of mine once told me that the reason for that is that he said our food is peasant food, and I said, what do you mean? And he said he was like everything comes, from the earth, whether it's potatoes or vegetables or obviously meat, but it's coming from the earth. So we're not like the French making exquisite sauces and things like that, but our food is very good because it's natural and coming from the campo, as they as they would say here in Spain. And also the people, I have to say, I mean,
Yeah.
as a culture, they are fantastic. I mean, I moved here on my own. That was like the biggest joke of, why did you move to Spain? And I used to say, oh, if I only had the man of my life, I would move to Spain. Oh, if I only had the job of my life, I would move to Spain. Oh, I don't have either. So I think I'm just going to move to Spain. And, the network of friends that I was able to make, I mean, the people are really incredible. So, you can have nice, strong relationships. And maybe easier in Madrid and in other cities, but people are very, very social and they're very welcoming. And, and also obviously in terms of friends, found some of the greatest friends. I recently published a book called Choose Your Moments: How the Sudden Loss of My Mother Taught Me How to Live, Inspiration for Everyday Life. And obviously the book is in English. And I have to say that my Spanish friends have been incredibly supportive. I mean, a lot of them can read it, but even those who are not reading in English or that don't speak English well, the people got right on board to, let's have a book signing, let's have a party, you can do this, you can do that, let me tell my friends. So, that kind of support and cheering each other on for, for success or spreading a message is really nice. I see that here. Even my young neighbors, kids, really, and they were interested, and so it's pretty incredible, the neighbors that you build relationships with, and the network. So I'm very happy with that.
I do find as well that there's more of a community feeling and vibe around the people that you meet. And whether it's, other expats and locals, that I just feel like when I come back to North America, I've got friends from like decades ago that I'm still friends with and I see here, but I just get that feeling, like that sense of community, and there's just more of a divide among people in North America that that I'm not feeling in Spain. And of course, I mean, Spain has issues. Every country has their issues, and people have different beliefs on different things. But I just really feel like there's that stronger kind of family community feeling in Spain over
Yeah,
North
you hit the
America.
word. The word is community. So I would agree with you. I would agree with you that there is a sense of community here. Yes, every country you go to, somebody is unhappy with the politics or the president or what have you, right? So that we'll find that everywhere. But
Mm.
generally, as people, I find that there does seem to be a sense of community. So that can be where you work, where you live, or your own group of friends. But people are very accommodating and welcoming. But I think that community is the perfect word to describe it. And I don't know, I always wondered that, like, why is it that they are more, even during COVID, for example. I spent COVID here when we had the lockdown, let's call it, or and I noticed how people band together to help each other. And and there wasn't blaming or fighting or, oh, you're going to get me sick, or any of that. It was much more of a sense of community. So I think it's probably something rooted in the culture. I see it within families. I mean, the something that we don't have as much in the US in terms of history. I mean, we're much younger than
Mhm.
Europe, for example. So I think that the educational system, and also inside the families, the way that parents are educating kids, and even I always joke about this, taxi drivers. I have learned so much about history from taxi drivers, just getting into conversation. So it's something that's really instilled into the community or into the people from a young age. And I think that sense of having a shared history, even if it is thousands and thousands of years ago, or it's for thousands and thousands of years until now, that might, spark the sense of community more than maybe what we see in other places, or what we see at
Mhm.
home, for example.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, in part with that is because of that history, they've been through a lot more. Where generally speaking, within North America, we haven't gone through as many really hard times as European countries just in general, because they have thousands and
In general,
thousands of
but it
years of
does surprise
history.
me because we have been through 9/11. That was pretty serious. We've been through
Yeah.
COVID. I think of that in my lifetime, like, wow, really? This,
Yeah,
these two
yeah.
things have
And I
happened.
think there were moments when there was more a sense of community. Like after 9/11, I think too, a lot of people were brought together and there was more of that, but somehow it's kind of
Yeah, it got forgotten very
dissipated from
quickly.
there.
And it's, maybe you're right in the history sense, right? So they, people are reminded a lot about what, where they came from and how, I mean, and even young people, I mean, I'll meet younger people. When I say young, I mean like 18, 19, 20, and they know a lot about history, about wars, and they have the history within their family and family
Right.
business and things like that. So again, that sparks the sense of community and belonging,
Mhm.
but I do
Mhm.
have to say that, Madrid is also becoming a very international. I've noticed a big change in the last, I would say, 5 years.
Okay.
There, I never heard English on the street or any other language before, only Spanish. And now I'm hearing, every so often other languages. So I do see that people are starting to visit and take notice of it. But there still is that, big sense of community within the Spanish community. And
And
it's when I moved
that's
here, I didn't have any American friends, actually. So it's funny that you're saying about expats. I mean, I think maybe I know one or two. And
okay.
I immersed solely into the Spanish culture. So there are a lot more groups and things like that now for
Mm.
people. But yes, I mean, I'm trying to think. Oh my, I forgot one of my friends who's a good friend. She's hopefully she's not listening, going, what about me? Um, but it's, it is interesting that when I moved here, and it's almost 14 years now, I didn't move, I mean, obviously I'm an expat, but I didn't immerse myself in any expat community or other Americans, right? I immersed myself immediately into the Spanish, and I think that has been great in the sense of what I've
Mm.
been able to learn, and I feel very comfortable living here, obviously.
That's it's great for me. I mean, it's wonderful to when moving to new countries to really get a feel for culture, the community, the food, and because that's where we live, and there's a lot of great things uh, that happen and that we can talk about. But what did you find for you have been some of the challenges, either when you first moved there, or even maybe recently about living in Madrid or just being an expat in general?
It's so funny. I don't feel like one, believe it or not. I feel at home in both places, but I would say the challenges in the beginning, obviously to obtain residency, and also, all that red tape that you go through. So the very funny thing in Spain is that they stamp everything, and that just really made me laugh. Like, what is with the stamps everywhere? Everything was like, you had to have a stamp here and a stamp here and a stamp there. And so that was funny because I was not used to that, obviously, at
Mm.
home. And so that, I mean, getting the residency, that was probably my biggest challenge. I was okay with it not understanding the language as well when I first came here. I thought I did until you get an apartment and a bank account and a job and health insurance, and you're like, oh, what? So, and then one day I'm walking down the street and I understand, I'm listening to a conversation and I understand everything. So I was just like, I understood everything you said. So that, was nice. But probably the kind of bureaucracy, red tape can be a challenge, because obviously in your own country you don't go through any of that, and in another country you do, and you're not sure of how serious it is and what you need and the waiting on lines and this, that, and the other thing. So I would say that has probably been the biggest challenge. Otherwise, I mean, it's funny when you say expat, I don't even think of myself as an expat, although I know I'm a foreigner here. I obviously realize I'm not Spanish. I am American. Um, but I guess I'm just that comfortable that I feel, I don't feel out of
You're part
place,
of the
so to,
community.
yeah, part of the community now. So
Yeah.
I haven't really had any, serious challenges at all. I would really say the biggest one is, just getting the residency. And even when I first moved here, it was in 2011, and people used to tell me, "Oh, you're crazy to come here. We're in a crisis." In Spanish, they used to say, "Crisis. We're in a crisis. We're in a
I can see.
crisis." And I used to always say that your crisis has nothing to do with me. I'm here for something else. I'm here to build a life and to see what it would be like. So you go ahead with your crisis and let me, do my thing. I think being an American gave me an advantage for getting a job. So I did have to prove that I could do something that Spaniards couldn't. So that was a little bit of a challenge, let's say. But I think that companies were more interested in me over, let's say, a Spaniard, which probably isn't fair for them, but based on the fact that I was American and that they thought I had a better business sense than, based on our culture and our business culture, especially. So
Right.
that turned out to be, that expatness turned out to be an advantage.
For sure. And I mean, now I like there's so many different types of visas and ways to get residency. So for some people, it may be easier in a sense. And I'm thinking more of people who are self-employed, who can work remotely, with those different visa options now, like the digital nomad visa, which didn't exist up until
Right.
recently, is one. But I do find bureaucracy, like it doesn't matter where in the world somebody is
Yeah,
trying
it
to
is.
relocate to.
Bureaucracy is just bureaucracy. It's gonna be.
It's everywhere. Even I have a friend of mine who used to work for an immigration lawyer in Canada. And she even says, like, the documents, the paperwork, like, we don't know. I don't know because I was born in Canada, but I know through her, it's not easy. And
Right.
it's the same thing of the bureaucracy. Maybe it's a little bit different because we're a little bit more of, yes, you go to that line, here's the list of things, you have it all. Where, I've had the list of things in Spain and they're like, no, well, we need this. And I'm like, it's not on your list. They're like, that's okay, we need it. Okay. No, you say is
Yeah.
okay and get it. And like, I've moved to a few different countries now. I've lived, including Canada, 5. And so now I just know this is what they say. Hopefully this is
Yeah.
going to be it. I'm going to have to come back again. And I just have to
Yeah,
have
it's part of the
patience.
game.
It's the way it is. Yeah. Yeah. No matter where, every country. So, it's just having those patience and it'll get done. It just gets done their way, wherever there may be.
That's true. You're right about that. I've tried. I exercise patience. The first time probably ever in my life. But but it's true. It's true. We all have to go through that, and you're never prepared because you don't do it in your home country. So you're
Right.
not sure, of what that is. But that's just a small hurdle to
It
the great
is.
benefits of when you get through that and then you're living somewhere else and it's fantastic.
So, how is your life different when you're in Madrid, living within Madrid, compared to back in Jersey? Like, I know you do travel back and forth quite a bit, but how are things different?
So here I would say, I have my real job, as I call it, right? So
Yeah.
it's funny because Spain being the more relaxed country versus US and the New York, New Jersey area, I'm more busy here, obviously, because I'm working. And then I just published a book, so I'm promoting the book as well. But I would say this is my more everyday life, let's say, where I'm working and I have my friends and my life here. And when I go home, it's more going home. Like when you're in college, and that's probably a better way to explain it. You're in college and you're doing your real life and you're in your classes and your parties and your friends and what have you. And then you go home for a Christmas vacation. Right. So
Right.
it's similar to that when I go home now to the US or now or over the years. It has mostly been for vacation and I visit family and friends. Um, and luckily Spain, we get a lot more vacation than other places. So it really has been
Yes.
vacation. Not,
There is a lot of vacation time.
exactly. So it really has been some good vacation time. But it's more at home, I would say it's more family oriented, and then my best friends from home that I grew up with. So I just kind of go back to that. And I am working a little bit there now with the book promotion, and even in my what I call my real job, we do events now in the US as well, in Miami and in New York. So sometimes I may be working, but it's also that thing when I get home to New Jersey, you forget, it's like you turn off, right? Like I forget about work and everything else, and I'm like, oh, I'm home, I can relax. So it's that's what I would say the difference are. But at the same time, as I was telling you earlier, I don't miss either place. I'm fully immersed when I'm home. I'm in my home New Jersey life with my family and my friends that I grew up with. When I'm in Madrid, I'm immersed in my job, my friends here, and all of that. The connector, I guess, really is my book. I'm doing it in both places, and that's about it.
Well, that's great because it's, I always think I'm the same when I go back to Canada. So I left Canada in 2011 and I don't miss it, but I do go back at least once a year and usually for anywhere from a month to 6 weeks in the summertime because that's when it's nice. And so I don't really miss it. There was a few things in the first few years when I left of certain foods that I would miss. And of course, initially it would be friends and stuff. But with so much technology now and
Now
with
you can't miss anything.
everything
That
like,
was always my joke with my dad because I would say, "Okay, I'm coming home and we can do this and we can do that." And he's like, "Okay, okay." I'm like, "Well, don't you miss me?" He's like, "Miss you. I talk to you every day." And we talk on video. So now there's not that, it's completely different than it was many, many years ago. But when I did first move to Madrid, I missed clothes dryers because we do not have clothes
yeah,
dryers here. So the hanging of the clothes was like, oh, and the sheets.
yes.
You know, so I did get used to it, but that when I would go home, my mom was like, the laundry. I mean, I couldn't stop doing laundry. I was so excited. If I wore something, I washed it and I dried it in the dryer. So
The,
that
the,
is,
yeah, the softness of towels when they come out of the dryer as opposed to being
there's
hung up to
nothing. It's
dry.
nothing like
That,
them being hung. Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
that
Those
is
are some
one.
of the funny things that we can think about, but it's true.
But and then but for me too, then it's like I just appreciate it. It's like, oh, this is so nice. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Um, but yeah, that's the hang dry
I
towels are a
also
little
think
bit
living in
rough.
Europe versus the US, you do tend to appreciate more things because in the US we're very based on, luxury, convenience, immediate,
Yes.
yeah, immediate gratification, right? So, and here in Madrid, it's not like that. My joke always is if you're sitting down at a restaurant, you might say to the waiter, like, so sorry to bother you while you're working, but can I give my order? And friends that visit me here are surprised by the lack of fast service and things like that. So in that respect, you know what I mean? You do learn a lot more patience because it is, things that at home are regular and normal here would be considered a little bit more luxurious.
Right. And even with restaurants, like lunch, it's not uncommon to have a 2 hour lunch,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is unheard of in North America. Even for dinner when I was living there, there's no way anybody stays in a restaurant for 2 hours. And
My
that's
mom
a
didn't believe
normal
me
lunch.
back in the day. And when she came to visit me one time, we were having lunch with friends of mine, and I said, "Look at the time." And we looked, and then when we came out, I'm like, "Look what time it is now." She's like, "Oh my God, you're how for so long?" So it's true, but you just get used to it. I'm used to that. To me, that's normal.
Yeah. And it's nice because again, it almost kind of then comes back to that community, right? You're enjoying lunch with friends, family members. You're not rushed to hurry up, eat, get back to work. It's enjoy your food, enjoy the conversation, have a good time, and you leave when you're done.
Right.
So it is great. So if somebody was on the fence about moving to Spain, they're not quite sure, what piece of advice or maybe couple pieces of advice would you give them about life in Spain and moving to Spain?
Don't think twice. Come here. That's what I would say. It'll be the best decision you ever made. And let them
Perfect.
discover all of the things, because instead of coming with expectations and let them discover what I have discovered, about Spanish people, Spanish culture, food, lifestyle, and because it is something to discover, right? Like you can tell, I think it would spoil it to tell people it's going to be like this, and this, and because each day is a discovery. I'm still discovering things 14 years later. And I think that that is what keeps it exciting and interesting when you live in a foreign country. But
Mm.
I don't know about other places. I visited probably around 30 countries in my lifetime. But living, obviously only Spain and the US. So I would say, trust me, it's the best decision you ever made, and you will discover all the reasons why.
Right. And it's nice to listen to other people's experiences and things, but everybody's situation's different. If I move to Madrid, I'm it's not going to be exactly the same as your move.
Right.
Like timing is different now, but we're also different people, things that we may be interested in, activities, hobbies, things like that. So that is also different. So I always love to share so many stories with so many people so they can see what's possible, but still realize that everybody's experience is going to be a little bit different.
Exactly.
So Elizabeth, if people wanted to get your book, I know you're going to be doing a bit of a tour with it. Can they order it online? Where can they
Oh, thank
find
you
you?
for asking. Yes, it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon in 15 countries.
Oh, excellent. Great.
So yes, that's great. And it's called Choose Your Moments, Inspiration for Everyday Life. But the bottom subtitle is How the Sudden Loss of My Mother Taught Me How to Live. And what I think could be interesting for the listeners here is that life is a series of moments, and we get to choose how we live them. So if you're interested in exploring the world more, because here we are living in this world and we don't know when our time is up, and it doesn't emphasize the scarcity of time, it's meant to emphasize the immensity of time. But why not take advantage and see everything that there is here to see? And unfortunately, I lost my mom almost 2 years ago. And that is what I learned, that all the things that we worry about are really not that important. And all that matters are the moments. That's why I'm calling it
Right.
Moments, capital MOM, for mom. And it has 80 quotes in an explanation of each quote using the word moments. So one of them for travel, speaking about travel, is change your environment, change your mind. And that can, I think that could be an advice for people who also want to expand their horizons and see new places and try something different. Because when you do change your environment, your mind does change. You start to notice things that you didn't notice before. And you will, and you're always learning things new. And every day is different. It takes you out of that habitual life that we can get into. So yes, I think it's inspiration for everyday life. It's just how I got that message.
Yeah, and you know what? It's so true. Everything is about moments, and those are the things that we remember. We remember
Yes,
moments.
exactly. And that's the point of the book, to kind of redefine the word moments from a point in time into a tool that you can use to enhance your life. So like what you're doing with this podcast is, educating people and giving them information and even ideas and intention, and even that little push of
Yeah.
of taking a step forward, right? There's another quote in there: when you take the step, the path appears. And sometimes it
Ah,
is just taking that first step into a new life. And I don't want people to have to wait for a tragedy. I mean, we all lose our parents at some point in our lives, but why not take advantage of the moments that we have now, why we have them? So travel and move to another country.
absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't say it any better. Well, thank you, Elizabeth, very much for your time, and we'll make sure to put links in the show notes for your
Oh,
book
thank you.
and for places for people to find you. And I enjoyed talking with you. I could have talked for hours.
Exactly. Well, come to Madrid. Come to Madrid next time, and we'll
I
do just
will.
that over a nice
Absolutely.
glass of wine that isn't $30.
That's right,
We could
for
probably get the
sure.
whole bottle
I was gonna say we for $30
or
there, we could
two.
get a lot of wine and good wine, like really good
Exactly.
wine.
That's the other thing. That's true. That's true.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hope to see you in person soon.